I'm going to say thank you to Dr. Prostowski, and the world is a better place with him in it, for sure. But we'll have some fun, you and I. I'd be happy to take any questions. I'm going to give you some tips and hope they help. And then I know that you will all have some concerns of your own. I can't wait to hear. But I've got the hard subject, how to get the most out of your cardiology visit, or as I like to say, how to check your ticker quicker. So, something we all have in common. We're all patients. We're all in the same boat. Some of us are traveling first class, some are down in steerage, but we're all in the same boat. And sometimes this is how our boat feels. We've got a lot of changes going on. Insurance is playing a heavier hand in what's going on with our health care. Things have gotten bigger and busier, and we've all gone computerized in the last decade. And these changes have made the waters very choppy, and things are going to continue to change. So we've just got to keep up with it. I know we're going to be all right because we have excellent physicians, we have the best health care, so we'll be all right. But we have to adapt to these changes. And that's my first tip of the day. We've got to become an active partner in our health care and help the doctor help us. We have to know our medications. We have to make sure our records are up to date. And I'm going to speak to that in a second. Know your insurance policy. Keep track of your signs and symptoms. If you have high blood pressure, go out and get yourself a cuff. Dr. Prostowski spoke to some of the devices you can use to keep track of your heart rate. Keep regular follow-up. It is so much easier to treat an established patient than a patient that just comes in when they're having problems. And by all means, do what the doctor says. So as far as records go, our records are now out in cyberspace somewhere. I don't think they've been hacked yet by the Russians, but they're out in cyberspace somewhere. And I think of it like this bicycle wheel. Everyone should have a good primary care doctor who is your main doctor. And then any other doctor you see is the spoke of the wheel. All information feeds back to the main doctor. So a lot of our patients go to Florida for the winter or whatever, or if you see a doctor in another healthcare entities such as IU or community, they're going to send a summary letter back to that family doctor. But as you can see on a bicycle wheel, the spokes don't communicate with each other. So you say to me, but Marilyn, all my physicians are in Ascension Health, so our records should all be there. Well, this is true. But while you know that you need to import records from out of Ascension Health, even within Ascension Health, it can be tricky sometimes. Let's say you have a pulmonologist and a cardiologist, as well as your family doctor, but all in Ascension Health. In January, the pulmonologist has ordered a CAT scan on you or something, or chest x-ray. That pulmonologist will get the results of your test. He will then file it away in your chart. It is available in your chart, but it's filed away. So you see your cardiologist 5 months later and you said, what'd you think of my CAT scan? And he said, well, I didn't know you had it. Because to look through every patient's chart would be a laborious task. You try to keep up and you may run across it, but it's filed away. It can be filed away under many different things. So the takeaway from this is if there's a test, procedure, lab work that is ordered by one physician and you want another physician to see it, just call the office and let us know so we can let that physician open that up from your file and let the physician see it. Now I went to Google, like we were talking about, everybody goes to Google, and they came up with some of these ideas to get more out of your office visit. And I highlighted number 1 and number 4. I especially love number 4. It says you have about 23 seconds to get your point across before the doctor takes over. And I said, uh-oh, that's got to be a typo. It should be 2.3 seconds. But it is true. It is true. You have an office visit. We allow in our office about 20 minutes for an established patient. A new patient gets about 40 minutes. And I think that's pretty generous. But it does go by quickly. And truly, there is a white coat syndrome that a lot of patients have. And they walk into the office and they just blanket over about what they want to say. So try to come prepared with what you want to get what your point is when you want to come in, because you do have just precious time with the doctor. Then number 1, current med list. Boy, I've been in nursing over 30 years, and this has always been a struggle in the hospital, everywhere. But this is the next helpful tip. Know your medications. Be specific and keep an accurate list. I did put don't rely on bottles, and it just happened this week. A patient is on a medicine, it's a calcium channel blocker, comes in 240 milligrams, 180 milligrams, 120 milligrams, and the dose has been changed, but he has kept all the bottles up in his cabinet. And he went home, filled his pill thing, called me about 2 weeks later and said, I have no idea which one of these I'm supposed to be taking. So keep a master list and be specific. And then I'm glad it's after Scott's talk, because it points out how there's so much interaction between medication, and you have to have a complete list. I use this as an example, a beta blocker. A very common medicine, a very good medicine that is used by cardiologists, used by family doctor. You can see it has a variety of reasons to be used, but it has all these different names. And I think one of the reasons that medications are such a challenge is because these names are so unfamiliar to us. They don't sound like English words, and people call up and say, I need a refill on my C medicine, because it was C. So it's just important to keep a list. I know it's a pain, but keep a list in your wallet with you at all times, and make it as complete as you can. Now, I went through and asked everybody in the office what some of the issues in our office were, and I asked as many patients as I could, what are some of the issues? And we have a lot of issues, for sure. We have started an interdisciplinary team where we're going to try to parse out everything from parking all the way, to should we have a vending machine in the waiting room or whatever. But by far and away, the 3 biggest concerns were waiting, scheduling, and calling in. So I'll start with those. I'm going to do those 3. Waiting. Nobody likes to wait. And we always blame this on the doctor, but I'm going to give the doctor a pass, and I'll tell you why. They start their day very early, and they end their day very late. They very rarely get lunch. Their reasons for being late are usually pretty legit. And it's very hard to predict a patient day. And the doctor will give a patient the time they need. We allow this 20 minutes, but if they need more, the doctor will give it. So I'm giving them a pass. But I tried to look for other areas where a patient might have to wait in the office. And this is our process. And I think it's true for a lot of offices. The process is very similar. But you come in and you sign in on a sheet, and then you go sit down and wait. And then you have to go get checked in, and then you sit down and wait. And as you can see, that's a big wait usually. And then you get called back to the back where you are processed. They go through your medications, make sure your medications are right. And then you wait to see the doctor. There is a huge bottleneck at check-in. And the reason for this is really pretty simple. We have, as I said, bigger and busier offices. But in our office, there's probably 10 to 15 doctors a day that are seeing patients. And we have 2 to 4 check-in people. So there's a bottleneck there, and mistakes are made. They're not life-threatening mistakes, but mistakes can be made. The only way we know in the back that you're ready is when the check-in person checks you in. Last week, somebody was checked out before they were checked in. I'm not kidding. So this, I think, is something that we can work on for sure. We have thought about doing a kiosk like they do in airports and different ideas. But this is, and if you have ideas, I'd love to hear. But this is an area where we can certainly work on. But here's my next tip. If you feel comfortable, if you can, use the patient portal. All offices have these now. And I know ours takes some work. I think there have been some changes that are going on with it, but this is so valuable. You can see your lab results on the patient portal. You can request an appointment on the patient portal. You can send messages to the nurse and the doctor on the patient portal. And you can check in early on the patient portal. So if you can do all of this on the patient portal, go to your office visit, and there's nothing new that you need to talk about there as far as check-in goes, they can mark you checked in. It shortens that process down. Now, I also put down schedule early in the day if you don't want to wait. Earlier appointments usually don't have to wait as long. Our big waits seem to be in the middle of the day. Try to allow time. If you're scheduling a hair appointment at 9 and your doctor's visit's at 8, you're going to feel rushed, you know. Prepare. And ask the front desk if you've been waiting. I say more than 15, 20 minutes. Ask the front desk if you're waiting. It will do two things. It will ensure that you've been checked in properly, and it will also, they'll call back and ask us, and we don't mind, and we'll tell you how long you have to wait. It may only be 5 more minutes. You're going to feel a lot better. But keep in mind, we take people in the order of their appointments. So if you get there a half hour early, and Joe Smith comes in later, and he's only 1 minute before his appointment, we're still going to take him if it's time for his appointment. So just keep that in mind. Now, scheduling. This isn't really too far off from the truth. If you call the main, and that's our switchboard number. That's just for cardiology switchboard number. If you call them for a non-urgent appointment, you're going to get an appointment. But it's probably going to be 2 to 3 months out. And that's okay. You should call the main number for an appointment. We don't want to bog down the nurse line with scheduling necessarily. However, my next tip, if you need an appointment because you have a medical concern and you need to get in early, the doctors want you to be seen. They want to get you scheduled, and we're going to work with you to get that done. But here's the trick. Call into the main number, ask for your doctor's nurse's line, and be specific. We have 2 Dr. Patels that work in our office. Be specific who you want. Every nurse has a dedicated phone line at our office. So you will get connected to that phone line. It will probably go to voicemail. Leave a message. I know the nurses I work with, we are very good about calling people back. I'd say 99.9% of the time we will call you back before the end of the day, but usually within 1 to 2 hours. So leave a message, know that we'll call you back. Now, what if you really have to talk to somebody? And this we hear so often. It's very difficult for us to be standing by the phone answering calls all day long. But if we are by the phone, we'll pick up and answer the phone. So seems to be a big problem in our office, the robocalls and the callbacks. Like I said, if you need to talk to someone, leave a message. Then, if we call you back, beware that the number will scramble on your phone. It won't look like the number that you called. Very often, it will have a 713 prefix. This is for Ascension Health. But it may have a different prefix. But the point is, you're not going to know the number. Now, we are working to have that number, put a St. Vincent on there, so at least you know it's a doctor's office. But it's going to scramble, so please answer your phone if you're expecting a call. If you don't want to answer your phone, give permission for us to leave a message. We are very serious about the Privacy Act, the HIPAA Act, and we will not leave a message, even with your spouse that you've been married to for 68 years, if he or she is not on your privacy list. So give us permission, and we will leave you a message, but answer your phone. If you're expecting a call, please. Or use the patient portal. So helpful tips in summary. Messages left on the nurse's line will be answered relatively quickly. Remember that. Now, if you have truly got an emergency, you may have to go to the ER. You may have to call 911 if it's really, truly bad. And emergencies are not needing a refill, but things where you are physically feeling bad would be an emergency. Call the switchboard and state that you have an emergency and you cannot go to voicemail. And then they will put you through to the back where someone will talk to you. That might be the end of my talk. Now here's someone who is not using my helpful tips. She's a mess. So this could be you. But here's someone who is using my helpful tips, and she is now a famous movie star. So these are my summaries. Who's got questions?